Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Elm City Lit Fest 2020, the inaugural Elm City Lit Fest. My name is Ife Michelle Gardine. I am the founder, creator of Elm City Lit Fest, and on behalf of my co-coordinators, Charmaine McAllister and Emily Mayo, we are appreciative of you all showing up and being here. We've had a wonderful 2 days of the most lit stuff as ever. The Elm City Lit Fest is created to celebrate, promote, and bring awareness of literary and literature and literary artists of the African diaspora. That's Black stuff for us and by us. This segment we're in today is called Black Voices in Theater. It will be hosted by one of our team, Emily Mayo, and Aleta Staton. Aleta and Emily will introduce the rest of our guests.
Yes, thank you, Ife. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Mayo, and like Ife said, I'm one of the co-coordinators for Elm City Lit Fest. This is our last panel of the day, of the weekend. I'm really excited to bring in some Black voices in theater. Just a little bit about myself. I am the project coordinator for Dwight Edward Project at Yale School of Drama and Yale Rep. I'm also an administrative assistant there. I've been there for 11 years, but New Haven has my heart, and I've actually worked and lived in New Haven since 1992. And Aleta, can I pass it over to you?
Absolutely. I am Aleta Staton, native New Havener, and I work right now with the International Festival of Arts and Ideas as a community organizer and community engagement manager. And I am also a theater maker, a teacher in the drama department at Quinnipiac University, and a lover of theater, actor, musician. Here we go. Look at what's happening to my tongue while I'm getting ready to say that I'm a vocalist. Hello.
And
Anyway.
Aleta and I will facilitate today our conversation. So I'm going to introduce our guests that are on in the green room waiting to come on. We'll start with Dexter Singleton.
Here.
Collective Consciousness Theater. We have Sharece Sellem. Vintage Soul Productions. I believe A.K. Payne. We have, yes, A.K. Payne. Hey. Yale School of Drama student and also graduated from Yale College. And we'll have some more guests joining us as they can. So stay tuned for more faces and voices. So how I wanted to kick things off is, instead of just reading your bios, I wanted to kind of hand it over to everyone to introduce themselves, what they do, and also tell us about how life in New Haven influences your work and your storytelling, and of course, how your identity as a Black human and all the intersections that come with it, how that influences your work. So can we go back to Dexter to start us off?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Emily. Again, Dexter Singleton, wears several different hats. Executive Artistic Director of Collective Consciousness Theater, that's right here in New Haven. Assistant Professor of Drama at UConn Stores, and Director of New Play Development at Theater Square down in Fayetteville, Arkansas, my newest gig. So for me, I was fortunate enough early on to be exposed to Black theater by Vaughn Washington, who a lot of people know is one of the greatest Black theater professors ever in our country. Produced so many actors at University of Michigan, Wayne State, Western Michigan University, and tons of other places. And he early on just taught me the value of, Black voices in theater, and all those early playwrights that were, writing In the Wine Time and The River Niger and Two Man in the Sign, Charles Fuller's work. And so that really got me to a point where I fell in love, getting a chance to play those roles, getting those opportunities, reading that work, hearing about our history in plays, and our present and our future as well. And so for me, it was important because of that, right, to be able to produce Black theater as well. And we don't nearly have enough of it. And in a collective consciousness, we're always able to, because we're so small and nimble, to really have a pulse on what's happening in the city right now. And so we can produce based on what's happening and what people are feeling right here. And, and we're, really excited that we're able to do that all the time here and respond to what's going on, and provide something for the community that's affordable, where they can see themselves represented on stage.
Great. And Sharece, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So I started my own small theater production company, which is basically just a network of artists who we just do different projects from time to time. I also conduct workshops in the schools. I recently moved to Elkton, Maryland, right outside of Delaware, but my heart is New Haven. Moved to New Haven back in 2009. And it's so rich with the arts. And I think there's so much intersection with the different arts disciplines that are in New Haven. And so I've met a lot of people being there, and been able to really develop my craft. Very specifically, Bergamo's Community Theater, Rafael Ramos has been my rock this whole time. I'm able to go to his theater and develop a lot of my work. So I'm very much a grassroots person. A lot of the influence that I've had is just growing up watching a lot of different movies, Black movies, hearing my grandmother's voice, telling stories and things like this. These things have been a part of me for a long time. And so I've always been love to be a storyteller. And so using that to put it on stage has kind of been my thing. And so I've always been passionate about theater, and the main thing that I love to do is write plays. And then my second hat is directing. And then I do some choreography as well, and theater instruction. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you. AK, how about you?
Hi. So I am mostly a playwright. I'm also a director here and there. And I think a lot of my background, I'm from Pittsburgh, so a lot of my background comes from August Wilson and thinking about his legacy and the idea of community, bringing people together as it relates to Black theater. And yeah, I think as it relates to New Haven, I think just spending time working with students in the city and teaching playwriting, and then also just spending time engaging with the community of Black folks that look a lot very similar to sort of how my community is made up in terms of Black populations and folks that I'm working with. So yeah.
Disciplines that are in New Haven, and so I've met a lot of people. August Wilson and
Echo. Aleta, can I put you on the spot? Can I ask you how Life in New Haven influences your work?
New Haven highly influences my work in terms of some of the opportunities I've had to advocate for the existence of theater. This has always been an artistic place to be. I did a lot of work in the public schools as well as some of the regional schools. Much like Dexter, who was at Regional Center for the Arts. I was over at ECA, which is a little more really fine-tuned in terms of its focus on the arts. So the educational institutions, that I've had the opportunity to, be involved with have given me the opportunity to design curricular models so that students could really not only enjoy the arts but learn how to be a theater maker or a director or whatever. And I've experienced students, teaching students of all ages, from K-12 to all the way to mature students at UConn. And so, this place, in addition to its really, really vibrant arts institutions and organizations, has really, really had a heavy influence on me. When I came out of high school, I had no idea that all of this existed. But when
Yeah.
I came out of college, I looked for it and found it. Yeah.
Great. I think we have another guest, Malachi Beasley. Are you here?
Hello.
Not yet.
Can you hear me?
Maybe.
I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yeah.
Here he is. Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Malachi.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and if and how New Haven, life in New Haven, influences your work, and how your Black identity, with all the intersections, of course, how that inspires your storytelling or artistry?
Yeah. So one second. So I think that the way that at least New Haven has influenced my work, coming from San Diego, such a like really, really big town, or not town, city, and then coming here to a smaller city, I've noticed my music and my art getting a little more subtle. So before it was a little bigger and excited, like I was a lot more like, how can I find fun in things? And now here I feel like I'm kind of falling into like a Chekhov, like I'm understanding Chekhov better as an actor, understanding characters that are stuck in like solace better. And then when it comes to music, same thing. I had a little bit more of like a fun beachy vibe before coming here, and now I'm in more of a I don't even know the tone, but it's just a little more serious, or whatever you want to call it. Then at least how my art has changed as a Black artist and how I see it through that scope. It's a fairly new ground for me. I mean, I've always been affected by it, but I didn't really pay too much attention, if I'm being honest, especially during my time in the military. And because of my military time, we always seen things as green. Like we didn't see color, quote unquote, which was really divisive at the time, and I didn't know it. So like when I just started to start doing art, I came in a place of like, how can I stretch myself? And then as I started growing and starting to lean into things and started to become more woke, or whatever you want to call it, that's when I started realizing like, wow, I have been affected on micro levels by directors or by other people, and also influenced by, I mean, Will Smith was the first person that like influenced me to become an artist, and like Denzel, someone that I'm influenced by. But like just micro stuff like that, where I would hear teachers back at other schools say, "We want to see your ferocity and your rage," and I was like, I don't know what this means. And just trying to navigate within white spaces. It started waking up a little bit more my first year here at Yale. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question or not, but
Yeah, absolutely. And you're in your second year at Yale, correct?
yes. Currently my second year, and enjoying trying to figure out how to throw paint at the virtual wall.
Right. And yeah, I didn't know you had a military history. That's really, really interesting.
Yes.
And just, yeah, it kind of reminds me that, all the artists here today have like a hyphenate. Actors, directors, playwrights, writers. I'm interested in how dealing with the pandemic and the slowdown of theater, how that's affecting your art making. And that's for anyone who wants to answer that.
I'll pick it back. I'll pick it back up and say something
Okay.
really quick.
Right.
I think it's been a struggle first and foremost for me, just because, like, I didn't know where to go when it all happened. I was really excited to, what they say in your second year, you start to do productions and stuff like that. So at first, I was like a little disappointed because I was like, well, where do I go? I want to get on the stage as soon as possible. But I'm trying the best I can to start actually diving deeper into like reading and getting into the details that I may have missed had I been in my actual second year. So that's the way I'm approaching it, is from more of an analytical and meditative state than the go hard or go home. That's
yeah.
Actually, for me, I worried that I was not going to be busy at all, right? In those first couple of weeks when things were just kind of turning over and closing down, I was like a lot of people, just like, okay, how can I stay busy? What's going to happen to art? Is theater going to be shut down forever? And then all of a sudden, just other things started to happen. Obviously I'm still teaching. There were still people wanting to do projects. As we know, theater doesn't stop, right? Theater has never stopped through anything throughout the history of the world, right? Through every war, through every famine, through every kind of battle, right? Theater has always continued and always maintained, and even a lot of times come back even stronger, right, than it had in the past. And so artists are never going to stop, right? And we're going to continue to try to create. In my newest role this summer with Theater Square as director of new play development, it's put me in a different position, because it's put me in a management position at a theater that has a lot more resources than I had at Collective Consciousness. So now I'm able to provide work for artists across the country, right? I'm able to now provide, development opportunities, productions potentially for playwrights, for actors to get them work, to hire directors now. And we're doing, and I've produced an entire festival over Zoom. 4 plays now over Zoom, and with a 5th one coming up pretty soon. And so I've been staying pretty active, with Zoom theater, learning everything about that. And when it just started, actors were just doing the Hollywood Squares boxes, right? And that was how it started, just basic. Now you're seeing, just last week, I'm hearing how actors are now using green screen on Zoom. They're like, they're taking it to the next level now. They're plugging in Isadora. They're plugging in all these other programs into Zoom, pumping it up, changing camera angles, filming different things. So theater, actors are finding a way to really make it, to lean into it. And that's important, and to really make it creative and really make it happen. So I've stayed busy because I've leaned into it fully, and I'm like, okay, this is what the lane is right now, Zoom theater. All right, let's go hard on Zoom and provide as many opportunities as we can for actors and directors and writers to work still, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, very much like Dexter. Emily, that was a hard one.
I was going to ask you. You did exactly that.
Yes.
A little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the Quick Quarantine Play Festival was born because of this pandemic. Now, the pandemic is dim and grim. We know that it's a very hard situation. I mean, it's a huge blow to Earth, right? But when it hit, I freaked out because I was like, theater can't stop. What are we going to do? But what can we do? So it posed an opportunity. And so I fell in love with the idea of monologues, of actors performing monologues and having them do it really quick and putting this pressure on them, to turn around a piece really quick, working alongside a playwright. And so it was a collaborative process. And we churned out 12 rounds. And so that has been such an amazing, fun experience. It was a way for actors and playwrights to kind of get in the gym online, work with each other, form new relationships. People have formed new plays because of the festival. They have someone wrote a short musical. Some people have gotten gigs because of the festival. They've gotten commercial gigs and things like that. So it's been in that way, it's kind of been like this little quiet blessing, I guess. And then also working with Long Wharf Theater. We originally started off our project for the New Haven Play Project. It was meant to be on stage. We were going to do vignettes, and artists were to represent the storytellers, and we were just going to, create these vignettes. And we had to pivot and just move everything online, which posed an opportunity for us to kind of bring film and theater together. And so we recently released that video, and folks can take a look at that. But it has created more opportunities for us to think about theater in other ways. And so in that way, the pandemic, kind of served a different purpose, as dark as it is.
Right. I was going to. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay.
I was just going to jump in and say, I think I also had the opportunity to work in the Quick Quarantine Play Festival, and just the opportunity to sort of just like delve into working with different community members in New Haven in the time of the pandemic was like really incredible. And in the same vein, I think because everything that's happening with the sort of anti-Blackness and the sort of revolution that's been rising up in the streets and stuff like that, I think it's been a really critical time to sort of focus on how we imagine new worlds and how we make space for those kinds of things in this time. So that's been really critical for me too, as I'm writing new plays and thinking about like what's possible and what worlds are possible as I'm imagining there. So.
And Malachi, coming back to you, can you tell us a little bit about Interruptions?
Yeah, that was definitely a project that was I had a lot of anxiety going into because of the COVID situation, but was really excited to pick up. But Interruptions was written by Odell Cooper, someone local from New Haven. And she had it was a three-person play. And it was after the death of her son, and we were pretty much writing a play that tackled PTSD and the issues around mental health in Black communities and the stuff that we kind of hold in our bodies. And so it was amazing to be able to get on stage during the summer and film this kind of social distant play and just kind of tackle some of this mental stuff that this gunk that we don't really talk about. Mm-hmm. And it opened up a lot for me coming into the fall semester of like mental health and how important that is, and how therapy is super important, and how I should dive into that. And I think what I learned the most out of it was that I don't think that people of color have had the privilege to slow down and like not go hard. The reason why is because like a shooting happens and it feels like we have to just let's go, let's move forward. How can I soldier up and work harder so that then this doesn't happen anymore? And it allowed me to kind of reflect for the first time and really really mourn, some of the things that was going on around me. One of my favorite actors, Chadwick Boseman, like I was able to mourn that. I wanted to run at first, and I was like, oh, I just want to pick up some weights. And I was like, wow, that's the habit. Go to something that's active. Go to something that will build a protection around me. But I was able to just sit in that this play, and Odell ended up picking up the ball because of one of the actors wasn't able to participate because of a family issue that was going on. And she was able to, I believe, heal through that process of acting through her own piece that she wrote. And it was very inspiring.
Yeah, and as I was just reminded, Baobab Tree Studios produced the Interruptus podcast, and Aleta was a producer on that production. Can you talk a little bit more about just PTSD and how important it was for Adele to tell her story?
It is, wow, this was incredible. Odell is my friend, and as she came to me as a theater maker to learn more about how to do this, when we first sat at the table, there were two of us who were theater makers, one who was a musician, and Odell, and we were encouraging her to first tell the story, definitely tell the story, but she didn't know anything about theater. And so we engaged in many sessions of, gee, how do you prepare a script for production? You know, from how many readings do you need to do, which is, you know, of course it varies. And how do you get feedback, and how do you fix, you know, issues that are in the script? And then of course the pivot. This was supposed to be on stage. It was supposed to be, you know, at Bregamos on stage. And you know, there had to be a change to film, and it really became more and more pressured for everyone as we went along. But I'm really proud of Odell, especially because she stepped forward on faith, and she absorbed and learned and used everything that she was taught. And she became a master of marketing, and she became a master of communication, doing the podcast with Kevin, and doing the you know, bringing forth a team of people who made this dream work and healing. Not to say anybody in the situation is totally healed, but using it not only for her own healing, but for people who have been through this. And I have to tell you, unfortunately, it happens every day. And so it was a wonderful experience, all around, because of all of that.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. And that kind of brings me to my next question. We are experiencing a resurgence in racist actions, state-sanctioned violence. Black Lives Matter has become a global response to that. How has that pandemic, how has that shaped your work? And we can start with AK. You have a response?
Yeah, I think as I was speaking about before a little bit, I've been writing a lot about just like what kind of worlds we can imagine, and what kind of space we would need to make those worlds possible. And so, yeah, I think just like working on different characters who are attempting to like lay the groundwork for that, and thinking about what the revolution might look like, and what happens after the revolution, for example. So yeah, since we're the core of my work this summer is exploring those different things and thinking about what it might mean to have a theater or have a space that isn't necessarily centered around the sort of narratives um, of like how of sort of like the violence that we're seeing and the trauma that we're seeing, but sort of looking towards that healing in that space of what might come of that healing, also of that resistance, both of those things going together.
Dexter, are you seeing that a lot in your new play development? Are you thinking of, are you thinking about this for collective consciousness, that upcoming season?
Yeah. Well, we, once collective consciousness comes back, of course, we'll be right on top of it. And we're thinking now, how can we respond to these things that are happening? We had, just produced Passover by Antoinette Wandu, who's a fantastic writer, and about two young men and their just their daily lives, right? Of dealing with the police, dealing with community, dealing with conditions of the community, right? That you're talking about. And the show was the most seen show that we had produced at Collective Consciousness. It got a tremendous response, right? And all the conversations and people wanted to talk about the show afterwards, right? And what are the next steps for our community, and how can we, do more proactive work in New Haven around these particular issues. And then the pandemic hit, right? And so we're going to be right back at it, of course, when we're able to return with that. But the great thing about my role at Theater Square is now I can respond directly. I can actually commission writers. I can bring writers into the fold that are talking about those things. And so I'm looking at that, that type of work. I'm going to be looking to produce as many Black and brown writers as I can while I'm there, no question. And looking at stuff that's current, that's about social issues, that's about healing, that's about, ending or looking at how can we end racism? How can we end police brutality? How can we end, all these things are kind of happening. And then the conversation around it so that people can heal, around that trauma. So I'm looking at, any way that we can do it and produce work and get it out there. Let's do it.
And Sharece, I know I saw a lot of different themes in the Quick Quarantine Festival. How about in your own writing?
Yeah. So yeah, we did have round 10 completely dedicated to Black playwrights and Black actors, and we had that round sponsored. So I was really grateful to be able to have that experience and also having that platform for Black voices. But as a writer, I've been really busy with this anti-racism work, and just with everything with the times, it's just heavy on my mind. And there's so much that I want to say. I think there are a lot of times, just personally, full transparency, being in certain spaces where people will have conversations right in front of me because they just don't think I'm gonna say anything. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something that they're just very comfortable talking about in front of me. And this has been a lifelong thing. Okay. So, my mother's side of the family, certain folks, just people would say certain things. So anyway, this has carried over now and it's bubbling over in me. And so it's coming out of my writing. I specifically wrote a new piece called This Is Not Business as Per Usual. It's someone's resignation, and it's all being done on Zoom. And it's a new piece that's catching a little bit of fire, and I'm really excited about that. I've gotten a couple of bites. And so people are wanting to explore this piece. It was commissioned recently, so I'm really excited about that. It started off as a small monologue called Dear Management, and then I've grown it into a short play. So that's a piece. I've also written a choreo poem called The Ghost of America's Past. It's really dark, but this is what's coming out, So definitely looking at new places within myself. Having these new ideas, new thoughts, and new feelings that I think have come up from before, just thought of in a different way. And so a lot of exploring.
And AK, I know you mentioned a lot of pieces that you're working on, definitely in response to the state of the world. AK and Malachi, are you able to do a lot of that during your classes? Is it more side projects?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely able to do a lot of that in my classes. I think it's a combination of both, of like finding time to like do it outside and then also in my classes. I know this summer we had to read Julius Caesar for my playwriting curriculum, and adapting that particular text to talk about a group of Black women who are trying to revolt on their plantation against the master as opposed to Caesar. And so that has been really fun to sort of adapt and explore in conversation with my class. And like outside of classes, I think just like working on just like building up different community. I'm trying to form a theater collective myself, like based in Pittsburgh, but also like virtual right now. And so that being something that, yeah, is both outside of school and connected to school. So yeah.
And Malachi,
Yeah. Yeah, just to kind of piggy, I think that right now they're doing a really great job of doing the best they can to figure out how to reshape some of the curriculum, bringing in Nicole Brewer, who's been doing great work with anti-racist theater for us as actors. And if I'm being transparent and honest, there was like a lot of resistance, at least for me in the beginning, because it was like, whoa, I have to actually look into those spaces. And find those spaces that I need to heal, and also some of that frustration that needs to be let out. But it's been amazing being able to almost create my own rubric that is against the white system that has been placed here at Yale and taught to Yale actors. So that's kind of been what I've been meditating on, is how can I best find a craft for me that allows me space to heal and takes away the white learning that I had as an actor. And a big thing that's been on mine, just because the play that I did with Odell again has just been, how can I best give this back to my community and shake up some of this ancestral trauma that we've got to talk about, and we've got to start moving around in our body to release. So a lot of physical work is part of my process.
I'm going to go off script because I see someone sitting with you who I know. Is that Juliana?
Yes,
it
is.
Hi. You want to respond to that? You are welcome to.
Do I want to respond to what exactly?
I think I was asking about work in response to the pandemic and what's going on with the resurgence of the global effects that Black Lives Matter is having on all of our lives. I know you just graduated from YSD, but how are you responding to these things in your work?
I think it's a little more complicated because the transition from like graduating from a historically white institution that like we have had conversations, there's like a very capitalistic broad structure that happens in this country, and especially with artists, in which like you graduate and you must produce and you must work and you must like, it's like what you do is like, at least for me, it's like what is tied to your work and your value. And the pandemic, with what happened, I think there was a personal and a social reckoning that happened across the country with so many artists. And one of the things that I battle with is, as I'm starting to encounter people of like the industry and like people of the business, the tools that we learned at Yale is still more progressive than the tools that the industry has learned. And so like I have to come forth in a way that I think is difficult sometimes as like a person just coming out of school, of like not giving away my power and like not giving away what I stand for politically, ethically, morally, and like what I care as an artist, in order to care for basically equal representation, which is like something I've always been very passionate about. And definitely crossing over also to a lot of the conversations with Afro Latinos and like the Latino diaspora. And that's been something that has been talked about a lot, in which I was just talking to the Latinx Theater Commons about how we can branch away to where Afro-Latinos are supported in equal representation. But that's something that is the transition between Yale and the industry is like it's very stark. I would say it's super stark.
Can we expand on that thinking in the by way of the seeds that we can plant at predominantly white institutions where some of us teach and some of us learn and some of us work? I have intentionally connected on Instagram with a group called Dear PWI, and I'm learning a lot of stories, and I'm affirming a lot of things that I was feeling in terms of the way people are being treated at universities, faculty as well as students, and what they have to do to cut through it, and the seeds that those of us who are teaching are able to plant at these institutions so that there is a pathway to a voice, so that even if we leave, we're not the last voice that can be heard in those institutions. What kind of seeds are you able to plant at your predominantly white institutions?
I can speak on my experience, at least coming in as a first year and having Gregory Wallace as an acting teacher. I was so thankful to have people of color teaching me. Cynthia Santos, my voice and my speech teacher. I had Gregory Wallace, who was an actor, and we did Passover. Actually, we did a scene of Passover, and it allowed me for the first time to know what acting was. Like, I was like, wow, I get to do a piece by me. I mean, for me, made by me. I mean, for my people. And this is what it is. And I remember him telling me, hey, you're starting to personalize, because a lot of that stuff I could relate to. And he said, we need to start using your imagination, so that then you still have that there. You just don't want it to slow down your performance and hurt your instrument. And so, like, I was super thankful for that. And I think those seeds are not going unnoticed. And they're super inspirational. And with Cynthia, she being Latino and coming from California, we did a lot of RP, FPDAE, MLE. And if you don't know what these letters are, it's like I'm talking like this and talking in this like almost like language, right? And she did a really good job of telling us, hey, this is not, this is a tool, and you'll find you in this if you find yourself on a production where you're doing FPDAE, MLE, or RP, you can find your diaspora in it. And like I said, with everything, it was really jarring at first, because I was like, I'm being taught another white thing. But as I trusted her, she really allowed me to understand that it was a tool in my toolbox, and that I could find me in it, and I was able to navigate it a lot more smoothly than other places that I had been, where someone was just trying to feed me something, and I was like, yo, like, I don't know how does this connect to me and the people that I like back home in the hood that I grew up. So I wanted to say that, and say that there is the representation is so important, and the knowledge that like stems and is flowing from those professors are amazing.
Yeah, and I think jumping on that too, I think a lot about just like the teachers that encouraged me about my space in a predominantly white institution, and the sort of ways in which like they planted seeds that enabled me to succeed. So I went to Yale for undergrad as well, and so there were professors in the African American Studies department. I was English and African American Studies double major, and the professors in the African American Studies department who just sort of like just like pulled me in and like held me down whenever I was like trying to figure out how to like exist in this institution as a Black person, as it relates to like classism and sexism and racism and all those different intersections. And so that's a huge thing. And then I think too about like just creating spaces. I think for me, finding Black theater and finding theater in general in school came from a desire to carve out rooms where we could exist on our own terms, the Black students at Yale, and having space for us to engage across our differences and through our differences. And so that was a huge thing for me. And I think leaving those spaces and leaving ways to remember through those spaces has been a big part of like how I've learned to survive in predominantly white institutions. Yeah.
For me, one of the major reasons why we started Collective Consciousness Theater in 2007 here in New Haven was for lack of opportunities for Black artists, right, and artists of color. And, seeing really talented artist friends in Connecticut who were not even able to get a call back, who were a lot of times were not even able to get an audition at places. And then seeing theaters constantly bring in people from New York, from other cities, when we had talent right here in CT, in New Haven, in Bridgeport, in Hartford, so many other surrounded towns and cities. And then seeing a lot of talent, Black talent in particular, leave the state and then move to New York because they said they couldn't get opportunities as a Black artist here. And so we started it for that, right? In my own experiences as a Black creative, working in regional theater, as an assistant director, as an actor, and just not getting those opportunities. And so we wanted to make sure at CCT that having a room full of Black artists who were both on the artistic team as well as on the stage was not, something that wasn't unheard of, right? It was happening every day. It happens every day at CCT. To walk in a room and see a room full of Black women, to see a room full of Black men, right, who are in a part of a production and who are there, so much talent like Tanisi Davis and Malia West and Raphael Massey, and so many Black artists have moved on from CCT, and then they've gone on to do TV, to do films, but then also so many of them have still come back to CCT, right? Having somebody like Tanisi Davis, who grew up in Bridgeport, who was wasn't even a professional actor, wasn't even able to get a call back. Mm-hmm. We hired him at CCT. He was able to do a couple of productions, get an agent, get a manager. Was on the blacklist, recurring role on the blacklist, and while on the blacklist, came back to do a show at CCT to do Passover, right? Because he loved what we had done and how we are family, right? And how so that was my way to try to say I'm going to create an opportunity. We're going to create opportunities for Black artists because just because we're from the community. From a small city or a small town, Black, doesn't mean that you don't have the talent to be able to make it and do well and be able to find a home to produce your own work. And now people look at me and they ask me all the time in interviews, they say, do you think that CCT influenced the Black art in New Haven? Because now Yale Rep produces more Black theater. Now Long Wharf produces more, other places. Do you think you had a direct influence on that? I used to say no, but as the years pass and I see more and more people doing things and people coming out of CCT and then people being influenced by CCT's ideas, I say, I think we did. And that's 13 years strong and 7 years of producing a lot of plays that otherwise would have never been seen had we not produced. Cortori Hall, Dominique Morisseau, Idris Goodwin, people that weren't being seen in New Haven. And we hope that we've contributed to the landscape of change and things, and showing what people can do if you just put your mind together and get out there and roll up your sleeves as Black creatives.
That leads me to I think everyone's aware of the demands put forth by We See You White American Theater. I'll put a link in the chat if not, but I'm interested in hearing from y'all. Do you think those demands will they take? will they be met? And two, do you think if and when some or all of these demands are met, would that make you less inclined to do kind of Black-centered work and do more with theaters that are meeting these demands? I'll go back to you, Dexter, if that's your feeling up to answer.
Absolutely. For sure. I was one of thousands of people who signed, that document as well, and has been following it closely as an artist. I feel like that it's lip service by a lot of these organizations. I feel like you've seen already very few that have actually taken on some action steps, and they're able to keep those action steps. I think it's very easy, just like, listening to Black music or dressing a certain way or using certain terms that you identify to be Black oriented or Black, ideas. We've seen that happen throughout history. And it's easy to like us in that way and support us in that way, right? I'm going to get the next J. Cole album, or I'm going to do this or that, right? And it's easy in that way. But when it comes down to actual steps and standing side by side and really doing those things, and then we're not going to see as many people step forward. Because ultimately, if you're not hiring people, Black people in positions of power, willing to relinquish that power, then there's no way that you're just hiring Black people to put them on another show or saying you're going to do 2 Black shows instead of 1. That's not enough. You have to put them in positions of power. Not just in lower positions or part-time positions at a theater. They need to be in senior management. And until people are doing that, right, hiring Black directors, Black designers, Black management, Black artistic directors, Black producers, Black board members, that's key, right? That's the main key, Black board members, right? And if they're not able to do those things, then nothing's going to change. And so we've seen a lot of people use lip service, and all they're saying is, oh, we'll do another Black production, or we'll hire 2 more Black artists. That's not enough. You have to hire them in management. And until they do that, they're just talking.
And not just in February.
Not just in February, not the Black slot. We know that. We know the Black slot, and we're not trying to all fight for the Black slot every season, right, at these theaters. No way, no more.
Right. And even if we did, that wouldn't be enough, because 28 days is not enough.
Sharece, I saw you nodding your head really hard.
Yeah, I really definitely echo and agree with everything Dexter has said. And collective consciousness has definitely been a leader, in modeling this. Like, it's not impossible, and I think that's what kind of blows my mind sometimes. Just the fact that that document even had to be written says so much about our society, and the fact that there's so struggle with acknowledgement. People have to be willing to lose some money. They have to be willing to make some enemies in order to make that document come alive in their theater. That I truly believe that, because there's always, people who smile and, oh yeah, sure, I'll support you. But then two seconds later, they're gone because they don't want to be a part of anything that seems confrontational, or maybe too Black. That's just the reality. And so I do hope that people start making some sort of changes. I'm somewhat hopeful, but I think I'm more interested in just us building stuff. Like, I want to continue to build our own stuff, so we can create our own platforms, have our own theaters and things like that, so we can see more of our experience shown.
It was very interesting that when August Wilson delivered his famous speech to theater communications group, he talked about the number of Black theaters that were on the LORT level, the League of Regional Theaters, and 20 years later, when that speech was redelivered at Princeton University, there were even fewer Black theaters. And, it's at the level where, Crossroads, et cetera, they're holding it up, but they're one of the very, very few that are holding it up. And we are so fortunate in New Haven to have a collective consciousness theater. What do you think you're feeling now as to the future of Black theaters in this country? Not are they going to survive the pandemic, because for the entirety of theater, some will survive, a lot will survive, some will not. But the future of Black theater, what are you feeling right now? Do you feel that it's on a shaky precipice, or that we are firmly marching forward, or that, like 20 years after August Wilson talked about it, we are losing ground?
Sorry, I'm muted. The future of Black theater, I think, in a lot of ways depends on the sort of premise of intersectionality, and on like how we can begin to center that and destabilize these sort of essentialisms of Blackness that exist. This idea that like there's one single way to be Black, and I think that in a lot of ways, trying to make space in Black theater for that, and for all these different like multiplicities of who we are and who we can be to come through, will really determine how Black theater moves into the future. Because as we begin to have these conversations about like intersections, it becomes more abundantly clear that we need more rooms, and just like more stories that are told. And so I think Black theater's existence like depends on that. And yeah.
I mean, black theaters need the funding, right? This is another question that we talk about all the time, right? Is that there are some great ones. You look at Penumbra, or Crossroads, or where these are institutions that have been around for decades and decades, that have produced and been home to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Black creatives, right? But Penumbra just actually got a huge Ford Foundation grant, and then right in the true spirit, they gave away. I think that grant was for millions of dollars, and they gave away 200,000 of it to other 50,000 each to 4 other Black organizations in Minneapolis who they entered into partnerships with, right? And I said to myself, what PWI would ever do that? Right. $200,000. So it says something to us about our spirit and our nature as Black people, right? That we always are sharing, we always are loving, we always are giving, no matter what. No matter what, we still always are that way all the time. But we need to have the funding for our spaces and to show that our institutions are important, and they're just as important as any other institution out there, right? And that we can be doing the work at a Black organization and get a fifth of the grant funding, and then a large white organization who is just hiring a consultant to tell them how they can do the work, but they might not even do it, then they're able to get a $250,000 grant. And so, it's really about closing the gap there, and these larger funding sources really seeing that Black organization or Black center work, that we're not just a niche, right? And you're just an over here sort of a thing, but we're not that. We've never been that. We've always had to adapt and be about the majority all the time. So we're able to do anything. And that's what it needs to be seen as. We're not just one thing, we're 1,000 things, right? And some, right? And we provide for the whole community. These organizations have been doing it grassroots level for so many years, and trying to provide for everybody, and being a space that everybody can be welcome in, right? And so we just need the support.
Yeah. and especially those organizations that are not on the League of Regional Theaters level, but are still there. The Black theater in New York, the one in Harlem, that's been there forever, and shows no signs of slowing down, needs not only money but our money, because we are, a lot of us are quick to support any theater that asks us, but we also need to see the value of the work that we're doing and step up to support the Black theaters in the country.
Breath after that. And Malachi and Juliana, are you in New York right now?
No, we're in New Haven.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna put Juliana on the spot again. What are you seeing in New York? If you're still in New York, what are you seeing as far as like Black agency in the theater, especially in these crazy times?
Well, I'm not in New York. I'm actually in New Haven.
Okay.
But I am seeing. I just want to uplift something that someone had said, and I'm sorry, like I'm coming in. I'm coming in. But,
you showed yourself, girl.
But, I really do think, because I did have a conversation with an artistic director of like this known theater company in New York, who's white guy, and he was asking me, because someone asked the question like, well, where are the classical works? Like, I want to do the classical works. And I was like, well, the classical works are there. You just have been too lazy to like look for it. And he was like, well, I want to find a canon. And I was like, well, even Yale University, the like dramaturgs, we have built what shouldn't be called an alternative canon, but we have built and compiled a list of classical work from all around the world that is non-white. And like, you should take the time to invest and discover it. And he was saying that, and it was a conversation we had, that until you have people in positions of power and like executive leadership, like he was saying, well, I'm thinking of stepping down. I was like, well, you should maybe consider it, because until like there are people, specifically Black and brown people within the diaspora that are in executive leadership, and I think that is going to have a reckoning in New York theater. I think everything else is optics. Like, it needs to be like, for change to happen, then it needs to be in the people who are in positional power for that change to happen. So I do think that New York theater is having that reckoning, but until I see that, then I'm going to see a lot of white people on stage.
Right.
You know, for commercial theater. So that means.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know for me, like, I think they have to have that reckoning. I think to be, to put blinders on at this point in the world, like, I think that's irresponsible. So it's going to be interesting as time goes on. We'll see the rest of the year, and especially after the elections.
Yeah.
How things are going to rock.
Well, one of the opportunities that we're going to have is to, in supporting the works of Black theater and the works of Black artists, since we're going to spend probably the next year on Zoom and in spaces where we have the opportunity to support from home. We should do that. I mean, I've been hearing from theaters that they've decided on their season. It's going to be delivered virtually, and you can participate. You don't have to drive 3.5 hours down the crossroads to see their work, and you don't have to drive over to see Dexter's work. He's got one more play coming out. We can probably enjoy it, and I think that we need to investigate how we can support given the current times. And I wanted to ask everybody, how are we adapting? Some of you are in class, some of you are teaching class, some of you are delivering as producers and directors. What changes are you making in class, out of class, on stage, um, to to make sure that the work is out there for everybody to share if they would only look it up? And we can pay for it online just as much as we can pay for it at the theater. What changes are you making to make sure that it's still available? I know Sharece has been doing some dynamic work with the Play Festival.
So the festival kind of serves to serve the artist and the viewer, because they're uploading everything to YouTube. So if they get a lot of views, eventually they may be able to, make some money with that. But it's just an option, and it's a way for them to connect and for them to network and just be able to show their own work. So in that way, that's been cool, but we don't make money off of it. If people want to donate, they can donate. And it just really serves as a platform for everyone involved in the process. So YouTube has been my vehicle. I know some other people, some of my plays have been featured in other folks' virtual festivals and things like that. And they've set it up where you can pay on Eventbrite, to see a show or something like that. So that's another way that people are utilizing this.
For me, I really looked at, being a teacher for so many years, as well as a, artist. I had to really look at and say, wait a minute, like, look at these books that I'm using. Am I using things that are promoting white supremacy, sexism, misogyny? I had to really look at, because a lot of the things that I learned in drama school, years ago, right, are the same things that folks are learning in drama school today. It was interesting to come back when I came back into teaching after being away from it for a bit to see, oh man, everybody's still doing Taming of the Shrew. Folks are still doing Seagull, Tennessee Williams, the same old canon. Dead white guys, you know what I mean? Or dusty white guys, right? Same old canon, and still saying that these plays, right, are the best plays, yep. Right? Yep. Dominique Morisseau says something that's really incredible. She says, and I'll never forget this. She said, if we say that Shakespeare is the best, or some other some of the dead white writer, right? If we say that they're the best, and they've been dead how many years? What are we saying about living writers? I always remember that's one of the greatest things. She's always a quote machine to me, but it's like that's one of the greatest things I heard her say, and I think about that so much when I think about the writers that I choose and how to invest my time and energy in living writers, because we're talking about dead ones being the best, and they've been dead forever. What are we saying about the living ones, right? And so we got to really look at. So I try to say to myself, how can I have a semester where we're exploring writers that are all alive? How can I have a semester, right, where the books and the pedagogy, the methods that I'm explaining to students are all living writers? Because then they can benefit from that, right? As writers, right? Us using their book, using their material, right? We're investing in writers of color. And then my students are getting exposed to people that they can see and learn about and know about and hear speak alive with breath today. Right. And that's important. And so I've always instituted, Black work in my classroom, but now even more so, I've started to look at the full scope of the methods that I'm doing and going back and saying, making sure that all students get as diverse as possible, particularly with living Black writers.
Yeah, I want to just add to something. because I agree with that. Like, I've always been like, why is Shakespeare the thing? I think it's a beautiful poetry, but still, he was there for a while. Why are we still treating this like this is the theater thing? But one thing that I do appreciate about Yale, like even AK, watching AK's plays, she writes in verse, and I was able to see that beautifully done. And I was like, wow, like I can learn this verse thing right here with this playwright in the same class as me. Not Shakespeare, but there's like that, like you said, we do have to look at the playwrights that we're feeding to students and feeding to the community of actors. I'm still in the process of, just like I said, creating my own rubrics and really taking control of like what I want to learn. And I have not been shy about pushing against, like, why am I learning this? I don't understand this because I need to understand this, because I need to bring this back to my community. I think it's super important to me. Community is so important to me. I grew up watching Will Smith thinking he was just a special thing. And I was like, oh, well, I guess they select a couple Black people to go on screen. Maybe I'll be the one, you know? And I don't want that for my community. I want little Black boys and little Black girls and people of color to see people on the screen and say, wow, like I can do this too. There's access to it right now. There's a playwright that I can read who is alive. Like you said, there is a director who I want to work with right now. Like, so I think it is creating a little bit of agency, at least for me as an actor, about the way that I'm going to learn and what I'm going to digest and who I can connect with, which is all so new to me because I've only been doing this thing for 3 years after the military. And I'm like, okay, well, where do I go? Oh, there's a big, huge shake happening, and I don't even know about the shake because I didn't read that many plays. Like, you know, so I'm in the process of learning, and I'm thankful to be learning that now. Oh, snap.
In regards to the question of how are you still getting work out there, I think a big thing for me I've been thinking about is just what is at the core of theater, even when we're not able to be in the same place together. And I think for me, realizing that it is really about community and about like sort of creating those rooms and spaces in the midst of this pandemic, even if it is virtual. So I really enjoyed just like being able to share, like getting like friends together and being able to share plays and just seeing like how words are bouncing off each other in the absence of being able to be in the same space together. And in that, I think that has been sort of grounding thing for me in terms of getting work out there, having that not necessarily be something that is like big, but something that is intimate and quiet and in that has like a lot of power too.
That's a really good point, that it doesn't have to be 1,300 of us in a theater. It could be our closest friends, our quarantine crew in a house enjoying a piece of work and having our own talk back about it. And there are so many ways that are introduced to us now of enjoying the work. And if we know about it, we need to, connect with groups like the Black Theater Network and whatnot, and find out what's out there, find out where the opportunities are, and log on.
And I think that this is also, just to add, I think that this platform, like we talked about earlier, is a perfect way to start establishing those connections with those communities. Because theater wasn't a thing that was even in my mind. As when I was younger, I was looking for stuff that was online or TV. But now it's online. The accessibility to be able to see plays that are like Passover or anything like that is definitely going to allow for younger people to feel like, well, I want to go see that. I want to put my money and invest in that. So I think this is a perfect time to take to use this platform.
I think one other thing. Oh.
Go ahead, Dexter.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So just one other thing too that I wanted to add is trying to also open doors for younger artists as well. That's another piece that I'm always trying to work on, and I always encourage other ones to do the same thing as well. It's just because so many people hold on to their spot, right? They try to hold on to their spot. And some theater artists, they want to stay artistic director until they die. You know what I'm saying? And they just want to keep it forever. And it's important to look at that pipeline, right? And look who we're bringing up, because we also need to, every Black creative that's able to step into a position of management to make sure that you're also pulling, opening the door for several others as well, so that we can create that pipeline for young Black creatives to step right into management positions and not just look at, being on stage, but also, our tools and gifts, off stage as well.
Yes, we need your administrators. Sorry, I just had a tech glitch, but I'm back. Two things I wanted to, I mentioned everyone being a hyphenate. And Malachi is also a musician and is going to perform for us here at the end of our discussion here. And I also wanted Juliana to introduce herself because I did not do a good job. I just said, hey, Juliana. So do you mind introducing yourself, and then y'all can start your performance?
Sounds good. And I'll also just introduce Malachi. I didn't want to about to perform. My name is Juliana. I just graduated from this past year, so 2020, and I'm from Miami, Florida. I grew up very much with my family and caring very much like the community I didn't see represented until I saw films like Moonlight, and I was just like, oh wow, this is the first time I saw a film about Liberty City, Miami, which is where I'm from. And caring very much about social justice and also art that actually compels people to change or to really consider in a way that I'm not, I think art can make someone uncomfortable, but I think in the space of discomfort is the space of growth. And that's been something that's led me a lot. But that being said, I'm also so happy to be here. And Emily, thank you so much for bringing me on. I miss your face dearly. And I will also love to present to you Malachi Beasley.
Thank you. So my name is Malachi Beasley. I go by Kai Lamont as a musician. And I'll play the first song I'm going to play a little for her, actually. So, all right. Let me know if you guys can hear me clearly. Now it's 2 a.m. and I don't want to go to sleep. Laying next to her again, counting off the freckles on one cheek. Sorry, I was looking at the comments, making sure I was getting heard. All right, I'm gonna restart. Now it's 2 a.m. and I don't wanna fall asleep. Laying next to her again, counting off the freckles on one cheek. I don't usually fall this hard for strangers, but don't mind this kind of danger as she's pulling on the callus somehow. Now it's 8 a.m. and I'm just trying to get some sleep. But you're in the way, just another moment, roll me up. Cause you kind of speak my language, but you constantly translate to see you. You don't really think that I'll show up, but I answer every question, see you. Really been a blessing, so slowly, won't you hold me? You say that there's no rush, but I can tell that it's you told me, get to know me, so I listen close so I can see what you've been through. Now it's 2 a.m. and I'm just trying to get some sleep. Laying next to her again, counting off the freckles on one cheek. I don't usually fall this hard for strangers, but don't mind this kind of danger that she's pulling on the chalice of my heart. Now it's 8 a.m. and I'm just trying to get some sleep, but you're in the way. You're in the way. I let go of most, went from nobody knows. Hey, you were moving the show. Said I'd go with the flow. Hey, so I won't go away. Said I'm here to stay. Won't let up. You were caught in the fray. Said I move with your play. Whatever. Now it's 2 a.m. and I'm just trying to get some sleep. Laying next to her again, counting all the freckles on one cheek. All right, I have one more. I don't know if I have time for one more. Just let me know. And cut me off. Okay, cool. All right, this one is the original. Wrote about like 2 years ago. Here we go. Need attracted to the lightning, yeah. Never hear a liar. I'm dancing on your fire. You should just retire. See from different views. Pushing other angles. Don't say too many lanes. I'm preaching to the choir. Cause I'ma dance till my heart's not sore. Wake up and don't feel the pain no more. Feeling just something you can't ignore. If there's a chance, there's a chance to wake up tonight. I might wake up and just do things right. Wanna listen, won't think things twice. Oh yeah. That's prices rising, surprising. Just got my bill from Verizon. Found out my girlfriend was lying, but tell me something new. Daily reminder of blinders, numbers made up to divide us. They still I saw from my iris, but I'll still fight for you. Cause you got that kind of love that smells like teen spirit. I put that speaker on my sleeve and now my team hears it. Cause once my heart was shot to my sleeve, until I met you, I realized you was all that I need. So I'll take that and lay back with them thick thighs and a six pack, with them cute eyes and a snapback. Do you live live or you Snapchat? Watch time live with my tape back. Let's cut through like a train track. Pick size like an ASAP. Let's take 5 as a Kit Kat. Cause I'ma dance till my heart's not sore. Wake up and don't feel the pain no more. Feeling just something you can't ignore. There's a chance to wake up tonight. I might wake up and just do things right. But I'm gonna listen, won't think things twice. Oh yeah. Dance to me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, y'all. I really appreciate the music, the conversation, just your energy, and you know, I'm a theater nerd, so I just got my life. I really appreciate y'all being here today. And Ife is back and is muted. Ife is the founder of LitFest, as all of y'all should know. Sean McAllister's here, co-coordinator with us.
Girl,
They've been
you've
holding
been
it
holding
down.
it down like you do at drama school. Okay, on the plantation, all on the plantation in New Haven. Okay, y'all, thank you. It was lit. This conversation was very needed, enriching. Oh my God, you all brought it. And the points about we have to support each other. Cause I tell you, I be trying to get Black folks to collective consciousness. I'm on their board. Like, yo. And I went up to Norwich to see Sharece, Aleta, and I in the freezing cold. But she rocked that show. Rocked it. Yo, so we are we just so full. Like, y'all have no idea. You contributed. Juliana, thank you for doing a bomb. Coming up, sis. All right.
Thank you.
We was like, wait, in the corner, put her in too, because I know that. I appreciate you all for being, even though you were at Yale, being involved in the New Haven community, because I know for a fact undergraduate and graduate people are told to stay in the bubble.
Yeah.
Everybody outside the bubble works in the bubble. Like, you gotta stay away from the people that, anyway, don't get me on the plantation. They probably ain't gonna give me no money, but whatever.
We don't need it. It's fine. There's more than enough money out there.
Yeah.
But we are so full. We had to come on to close. You all, oh my God. And Dexter, you know, since you showed up as a fellow at Long Wharf way back when.
Way back.
Okay. Yeah. How many years ago was that?
I was not 1998.
What?
Long time
ago. That's how long we go back. I was at Long Wharf as house manager, and since I had the keys, and we was doing everything else. Like, I got the keys. We're gonna have some black jazz. We're gonna have everything. So this is about it. What I've been about. Ife means love of creativity and culture, and I'm about it. And I got this fabulous team. These wonderful, talented ladies with me. Emily is a gem. You know, the spook who sat by the door at the drama school. I hope I don't mess up your job too, Emily, because. But you know, y'all know Yale's a plantation. Anyway, Elm City Lit Fest was lit thanks to you all's contribution, and the past 2 days have been so enlightening, enriching, and the inaugural fest has been virtually a success. I mean, wow. And because it was virtual, we were able to reach so many people. So I want people to encourage people that were watching to share it. It's on Baobab Tree Studios YouTube page. It's on Elm City Lit Fest Facebook page. And I tagged you all. Also, I shared it to you all's page. Malachi just friended me, and I'll send it to you. I'm not a social media stalker, bro. But we are so full, and we got to thank Kev for holding it down for us and making all it connected, keeping it all together. Kev, Rev Kev, Baobab Tree Studios. And if y'all got productions that you want to do, like, hit him up, because he did Odell's play. He did a Lit Fest. Listen, Baobab Tree Studios. We also have a bi-weekly podcast that I on Sundays, and I'm going to invite y'all Black people at Yale and that come on through and talk with us. Sharece has been on. We're going to have Dexter too, because we got to continue these conversations about the for us and by us. Like, come on now. We have to support each other. So we're going to say amazing time. Thank you. There's a whole bunch of comments over here on Facebook. If you go to the comment tab, people have been enjoying it. Again, we thank you. Sean, you got any words? Because I need to shut up.
I would say thank you all so much. These past 2 days have been a fulfilling experience. We've all shared so much. We've dived into realms that usually don't get light. And because that we've dived into, we now have a responsibility to carry this forward. We've all said a lot, but now we all have to kind of push forward. There's no more lip service. We have to take responsibility for our actions in our communities and our culture, and making sure that our stories are being told and that our history is preserved. It's up to us. And I think we've established a connection here, family. The Elm City Lit Fest is around for everybody. Call us and we will be there. It's just been dynamic. Thank you all for spending your time with us and supporting us. Rev Kev is running our donation link at the bottom. This is good soil. Everyone on this call and who you have seen are good soil. So if you plant your seeds, you will have a good harvest.
I also want to add, like, for people that are listening out there, when you want somebody to do something for you, when you want one of these artists that we've had, the writers, anybody, pay them. Okay, we have to thank our funders. We are grateful to the Community Foundation for Great Haven, William Graustein, the who else did it? The Whaley Edwards, the web management team, and New Haven Cultural Tourism, blah, Kim and Adrian. Everybody that gave us a contribution. The contributions go to the artists. Like, listen, it's important. It's a job. Theater is a job. The art is a job. Okay, people, just because it's not in your realm, pay people. And when you ask them to make something for you, pay them. I'm about that. And we got to support our own. Everybody, come on now. You know I'm about that. So I want to thank everyone. All you gotta do is click leave studio because it's over. I need to go have a glass of wine, y'all.
AK, I'm gonna talk to you
for everything you do.
AK, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit later. I'll hunt you down because I come to Pittsburgh a lot for August Wilson House activities.
Right.
The block party.
Aleta and I hung out with August Wilson. Oh God, I forgot what year it was. At
the 90s.
National Black Theater Conference.
Yeah.
Okay. This lady is so cool. It's
incredible soul. Yeah.
All right, y'all.
Okay.
Blessings. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you all.
Thank you for sticking with it and getting it done.